This is a question that I get asked all the time by patients. Does having sex help or hurt your prostate? And there's actually quite a bit of science behind this. So let's talk about it. If you're new here, I am a urologist and pelvic surgeon, and I make educational content on urologic health every Monday and Friday. So if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and share this channel with your friends. Ejaculation and orgasm are two different things. Ejaculation is when the semen is released from the body, and orgasm is when you have that pleasurable sensation that can be reached through sexual stimulation or other means. In order to understand how ejaculation and orgasm affect the prostate, we need to understand a little bit about what happens in your body during ejaculation. During ejaculation, the muscles around the urethra, which is the P2, contract and relax in a rhythmic fashion to help propel the semen along and out of the body. These muscles are called the bulbocavernosus muscles, and they are innervated by a part of the nervous system called the pudendal nerve. The contractions start at the top of the urethra and move downward toward the tip, helping the sperm move along. Now, these muscles can be trained and made stronger through Kegel exercises. However, if you overdo it, it can actually cause some problems. In fact, men who have a condition called prostatitis often have hyperactive bladder muscles, meaning they contract too much and too often, causing symptoms like frequent urination, sometimes pain with urination and pain in the pelvic region. Interestingly, this can happen from either overactive contraction of these muscles or from underactive contraction of these muscles. So both too much and too little can cause symptoms. But what about orgasm? During orgasm, there is a release of several chemicals in the body, including dopamine, which is the feel-good chemical in the brain. And while it may feel pleasurable, it's not necessarily good for the prostate. In fact, studies have shown that men who ejaculate more frequently have an increased risk of developing prostate. One theory behind this is that the frequent release of dopamine during orgasm can lead to a buildup of inflammatory markers in the prostate. Interestingly, other studies have found that men who achieve orgasm more frequently have a decreased risk of prostate cancer. So is it the orgasm itself that's bad for the prostate, or is it the ejaculation is thought to be protective against prostate cancer. In fact, men who ejaculate more frequently before the age of 50 have a decreased risk of developing prostate cancer later in life. This is thought to be because ejaculation helps to release old prostate secretions. Kind of like stagnant fluid that's been sitting in the prostate that can harbor some abnormal cells. Releasing that fluid and having new fluid kind of push that out, flushes out any abnormal cells and prevents them from becoming cancerous. However, men who experience chronic pain with ejaculation, perhaps due to having inflammation or infection of the prostate, will not get this protective effect. Also, the evidence is pretty clear that having frequent orgasms does not increase your risk of prostate cancer. In fact, it may be slightly protective. So the data seems to suggest that ejaculation may be good for the prostate, but orgasm may not be. But having either one very frequently might not be the best. So moderation is key. Bottom line, don't worry about having sex. It's not going to hurt your prostate. In fact, it may be slightly beneficial for your prostate health. However, if you are experiencing pain with ejaculation or with orgasm, then it is important to see your urologist or primary care doctor to get evaluated, because that may be a sign of something more serious going on, such as prostatitis or other issues. As always, we're going to take care of yourself because you're worth it.